We're here at Thurlow Flora up in Eston, KZN. They are one of the specialist growers in Clivia. They've been hybridizing Clivia since the 70s, I believe, and they've been specializing in those rare, incredible colors. We're going to speak to Taylor in a second, who's going to show us around this most amazing nursery and her incredible heritage plants. There are some plants here that you're not going to want to miss out seeing. Welcome to the Nature Company. If this is the kind of information you're interested in, please hit that subscribe button down below and that notification bell to be notified of all our upcoming content so you don't miss out on a thing. So this is Taylor, second or third generation now? Third generation in growing Clivias. Her father Sean has been one of the big names in hybridizing Clivias for a long time now. And you'll probably see in most of the big international collections, they've definitely got some of his plants. So I believe here we're in the sales shed.
Yes, so we're in the sales shed. Now have a look, these are all our plants that are for sale that we take to the Clivia conventions as well as Clivia shows, as well as our adverts online and our seed list that we release internationally every March.
Okay, and is there any special stuff in here that you'd...
Yeah, so there are a lot of our hybrid crosses that are in the shed here that we do sell. They're mostly our first flowering plants. So it takes about 4 to 5 years for them to flower from seed. And then first flowering plants, you normally can gauge whether they're getting better or getting worse. Yeah.
How many plants would you say you have available here in your sales shed?
I'd say tens of thousands. We don't have an exact number.
And you say most of these are at flowering size already?
Yes, yeah. So most of them are flowering size. We have a small batch at the top that are about 2 years old that aren't going to flower, but most of them are flowering size. So you see these ones, if you have a look here, these ones here are about a year old. So these won't flower. But as soon as they get to 3-4 years old, we're just trying to slot them in for space at this point.
Okay. And then these are your seed pods already coming on some of these?
Yellow seed pod. So that flower's yellow.
Okay.
So depending, if you have a look on that side, there's some red.
So there we go. There's a good indication of the different colors you might get. She's saying that these red seed pods will probably give you the orange or reddish colors. And these yellow ones will definitely be the yellows, possibly peaches.
Yellows, peaches. Peaches tend to be a little bit darker.
Okay, so it's the trained eye that will be able to tell the difference. And I see these with these different colored edges. It almost looks like it's sun damage or something.
Yeah, so this is the type of variegation that we have. It's an acabona. So it variegates through stages in the leaf instead of the normal striped leaf that you will find in variegation. The acabona do have beautiful flowers, but they're mainly known for their leaf coloring. We did take them to a show. They were fairly new in South Africa. When we were really getting ready to pack them, our lovely nursery ladies were clipping them, thinking it was sun damage, when they fortunately are meant to look like this.
And we can see these acabona coloring on the leaf, and you can still have all the different colored flowers. And here are some of the fancy Miniata and interspecific hybrids that they have available. Are these also all for sale, or these are just for show?
Yeah, these are for sale. We just brought them in because it was raining. We don't want the flowers to get damaged. Yeah.
So what would be? Oh, I see. This one is one of the ones that catches my eye. But
Yeah, so
that's
it's an interspecific hybrid cross. These are the plants we normally take to shows for our sale of show plants. But yeah, they're all hybrid Miniatas and specifics. Obviously, interspecifics have that very distinctive
drooping.
shape. Yeah, and that is a multi-petal.
Ah, there we go.
So if they have more than 6 petals, it's considered multi-petal, and then you can breed with those genetics and create multi-petals of different colors.
And what would be your rarest that you have here?
So it depends on what you're looking for. Everyone's sort of looking for something slightly different, but our narcotics range is our more recent of the coloring. So these are your greens, your narcotic crosses, as well as your... So if you have a look at this one, it's different colorings on the leaf compared to what's on the back.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what why the name narcotic?
So the color comes from my dad assuming that we were on drugs for the color that we were seeing, because it was a new cross we'd never seen before.
Okay.
And then the names have sort of spiraled from there. Yeah.
That's actually quite a clever. So it's all of these ones with these.
So those
backs.
are your versicolors with just the color on the back. So the inside of the flower doesn't have any coloring, whereas the back of the flower has.
Does. So
colour.
that you call versicolor.
No, that's pink. Very soft touch. Thank you.
And what was this? We saw this cutest little one at the back here.
Oh, so that's chiffon daughter cross. It's currently sold, but chiffon daughters vary from that where there's a touch of colour to this one over here where there's quite a lot of colour on the end, just depending on who the mother parent was.
And then what would the difference between the size of the two?
So this is a second flower. So this is about 7 years old, and that's 4 years old.
Okay, so this is
So
still going to
they
get
do
to.
get bigger. Normally, as I said, we normally look at first flower to gauge whether it's worth keeping or if we should get rid of it.
What's the difference with these ones that have the almost more open petals
So that's
compared to the closed?
closed petals is obviously a breeding. Open petals are bred more with a type of plant called a spider, where none of the petals touch. It looks like a spider. It's like got thin petals, but it's just where the genetics came from.
Okay.
But that there is a Chubb splash, as well as this being a Chubb splash, with a like slight splash of colour on the outside.
Okay.
Where in the world do you send seed?
So we send a lot to the UK, some to Australia, Japan, a few to America.
Because I believe the Japanese are big into their Clivias.
Yes, they are. They tend to have more of your nobilis and your interspecifics, and less of the Miniata, so they like to export a lot.
Okay. What's the difference between some of them that produce these like full round heads compared to ones that are...
Less.
Yep.
So you'll see with the plants we use for breeding, the fuller the head, the more desirable the plant is. It does also come with age of the plants. They tend to fill out. But what you are looking for in genetics is a complete soccer ball sort of head. The ones that flower like with 4 or 5 flowers aren't as desired. It might be good genetics that we use on plants that have a rounder head.
Okay, for
So
the
that's
color.
the end goal.
Okay.
Yeah, end goal is the completely round head. Yeah, if they have, so with the judging, if they have gaps, they're normally marked down.
Clivias are often thought of as bulbs, but actually they're not. They actually grow on this rhizome with these large fleshy roots, and this is what gives them the moisture and the food that they need to withstand those dry spells. We notice that there's no bulb whatsoever attached to it. These are just the strappy leaves which are attached onto this rhizomatic stem, and then these large fleshy roots. The Clivia produce a huge root system for the size of plant that they are. This is to ensure that they are able to survive through those drier periods. Clivias generally prefer temperatures from anywhere between 5 degrees up to around 29 degrees Celsius. But they do need that coolness in that rest period to help force the flowering. There's 4 main species of Clivia. It's the Miniata, which are these ones with those big rounded football style heads. Then you have Coalescence, which also has a similar sort of flowering spike, but often not quite as compact. And then you have the Noble and the Gardenii, which have those wonderful drooping flowers. And if you're looking for autumn flowering Clivias, then you're looking at the Mirabilis. That's from the Cape area, the all the rest are from the east coast, whereas the mirabilis is from the west coast. It's in the winter rainfall areas, so it's quite different to what you'll see from these miniatas. And they also prefer full sun, whereas you notice there's this 80% shade cloth across all of these Clivias. They prefer the shade as they grow in the forest floors, whereas your mirabilis grows out in the full sun, and their temperatures will drop from around 10 degrees Celsius up to 45 degrees Celsius, so they can really take the heat. And let's see whether I can compete with the sound of the birds. And there's another one of these most amazing interspecific hybrids. These, with their nodding flowers, I often find almost more attractive than those full big football head of flowers. I don't know what it is, but I just find these really special. And again, you can tell the interspecific hybrid by the far more tubular shape of the flowers, although these are splaying more at the ends. So here we're getting closer to the look of the noble and the Gardenii, just with these pendulous tubes that hang down from the flower spike. And we've been luckily allowed to come into their heritage section. This is where they keep a lot of their breeding stock, their mother stock that they use to pollinate with. And we'll try and show you some of the different ones that they have here, just to give you an idea of the amazing genetics that they've got working for them to produce these plants that are sought after all over the world. And of course, it goes without saying, they have the variegated forms too. We'll see whether we have any available in flower at the moment. We've had really odd weather this year. As I've been saying earlier in the channel, we haven't had that coldness to winter that we were expecting. So the display in the Clivias just isn't as amazing as what she says it should be. But if this is not amazing, then just imagine what it would look like if the weather had been right. These colors are just pure joy. There's the multi-petals, probably quite sought after for breeding. Then we just see the sheer size of each of these blooms. Makes us all wish we can just have a whole garden full of them. Look at that tight bunch. And when you see the variety in just the simplest little differences in each of these, you understand why they say that Thurlow has some of the biggest genetic material to work from for producing new Clivia. They really have such an incredible variety. Just to tease you. And look at that. Is there actually a flower that you can say is any prettier? I don't think so. There we go again, more of that spider form with those separated petals again. Just the softest tinge of pink. Not quite peach, but actually more like pink. And I'm afraid the closer you look, the more beauty you see. how could you say no to that? It's almost, you can't say almost red, you call them red. Just shining. And before we go any further, what they call bronze. These are the bronze ones that they've been hybridizing for a while now to get all these slight variations in the different bronzes. And this is where they all originally come from. This is what is found out in nature, and these are all the examples of the hybridization that they've been doing to get from that to this and that and just about everything in between. And the only way they know what's going to come is when the flowers arrive, and then I'm afraid the culling takes place. They need to check which has better forms, better colors, whether the leaf form is any good, whether the colorways on the flower are right, and whether they have nice full heads. And we can even see bronzes in the variegated form. So there's going to be something for everyone here. And even those with the smaller flowers, they still put on an incredible show. So I'm never too sure whether the smaller flowers are just because that they're younger plants, or whether they've been bred to be smaller. And yeah, what they called chocolate fingers. These ones look like they're going to put on a magnificent display, but what happens is only one flower opens at a time. So you get this beautiful plant and then you think you're going to get a massive display, but you don't. And in fact, these are actually considered quite rare and highly collectible, as they don't produce seed. The only way they can be reproduced is by division. So that's going to take a while for your plants to look like this. And there is a special beauty about that, as it is anyway. Again, each bloom is monstrous. There we go. There's an excellent show of the spider form of the Clivia flowers. Those very divided petals, long, thin, narrow, but still they make an excellent display. Stunning. And then again in the yellow too. Okay, there's so much more I could show you, but I'm afraid our time has run out. My batteries are run out, my emotions are done, and I suppose that's where we should call it a day. And if you'd like us to do a follow-up video on the culture and growing of these fabulous plants, Clivias are easy to grow, but there are some things that you need to watch out for. So if you're interested in that, just drop a comment down below and give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Thank you for watching. If you find any of this information helpful, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button down below, and that notification bell, bing bong, to be notified of all our upcoming content so you don't miss out on a thing. Help us grow as we help your orchids grow. Well, your plants grow.